from the News Channel 5 network. This is Urban Outlook.
Hello and welcome to Urban Outlook. I'm April Eaton. Thank you so much for being with us today. You know, it's springtime, and what happens during this time of year, we start doing that spring cleaning. We start getting rid of the stuff that we haven't seen or touched or worn in about a year or so, and we box up and bag up all those goodies, and most of us, at least I do anyway, we take it to Goodwill. Well, Goodwill has been doing some great work in this community and throughout the entire country for many, many years. So we thought we'd talk a little bit about the mission and the transformation of Goodwill through the years, because it's not just about getting those goods in and sending them out to folks who may need them in the community. This organization is now providing jobs and doing other things to make a difference. We've got two fantastic guests with us on the show today. Matthew Borlakis is Goodwill Industries of Middle Tennessee's CEO. Thank you so much for being here. And Chris Fletcher, Goodwill Industries of Middle Tennessee's PR and Communications Manager. Thank you also. The guy who makes all those messages work, probably responsible for some of those commercials that we see all the time as well. So thank you both so much for being here. As I said, it's been many, many years of work for you all, and I guess some probably know Goodwill just because of the brand alone, but I wonder if they know the story of Goodwill. So I wondered if we could start there with a little history lesson and fill us in on how Goodwill Industries came about.
Love to do that. So we had a gentleman who was a Methodist minister that was in South Boston, and he had a dream of being a missionary and going to India. And at the time, there was not enough funds in the church to support a mission into India. And so he was resigned to do his work in the United States. And so they sent him to Morgan Chapel in South Boston, where he was ministering to largely an immigrant population that were homeless, that were hungry, they were unemployed. And you know, he knew that they needed food, needed clothing, needed these immediate things. But ultimately, while he could find those things temporarily, it left him dissatisfied. And he knew that what would change their lives would be a job. And so he went door to door in the more affluent areas of Boston, asking for those things that people no longer needed, wanted, or used. A lot of those things were broken, or they were clothes that needed to be mended. So he brought those back, and he would hire people to fix things, repair things. And then in turn, initially, he just put it out there for free. And like anything, even back then, you opened the doors and it was just a madhouse, a mob, you know, and there was just no dignity there. So he stopped it. He said, "That's not what we're going to do. We're going to sell it for just something, but you've got to have some, way of feeling that your life is getting better." And so that enterprise just grew over the years as more people would donate stuff, and he was able to put more and more people to work. They then in turn, would make these available to the community. And these were clothing and household goods and shoes and books and all the things that people would need. And for the first really 50 years, it was Methodist ministers that ran Goodwills. As Edgar Helms would go around the country teaching people how this social enterprise worked, it was mainly Methodist ministers. And it was not until the 60s that it really began to be more of business, where it really moved, it shifted away from the Methodist leadership and more into just people running the businesses. But we've never left that mission part of Goodwill, which is that we provide employment and job training opportunities for individuals with disabilities and others who have trouble finding and keeping jobs, right? And those can be youth that dropped out of high school. It could be seniors that want to get back into the workforce that don't like retirement. It could be formerly incarcerated. But it's all those folks that just find it challenging to get someone to open their door, to give them a chance.
Right. You're providing those skills to people as well, correct?
That is correct.
Teaching them so that they're ready for that job force, that job market, that job that you have to offer.
It is, and in many ways, it's just those soft skills, right? It's looking someone in the eye and smiling and being direct. It's a firm handshake. It's dressing appropriately. It's and the importance of showing up on time. How to work side by side with someone, because that sometimes is we take that for granted, that seems to be very obvious, but for a lot of people that if they have come out of prison, they come from a very structured, a system that doesn't have a lot of freedom, and so you've got to retrain them. You've got to give them some basic skills in which they can use.
Matthew, we talked a little bit about this before we started the show, and Chris, please jump in to your point as well. But I wondered, what do you think has given Goodwill the longevity that it has? Obviously, it's full of rich history from whence it came, but Goodwill has been around, and the brand has been around for quite some time, when other organizations similar to it may not have lasted as long. What is it that you think makes it so that you all have been around as long as you have and doing the work that as long as you have?
I go, Chris.
It's the passion of the people that not only get help from Goodwill, but who turn around and pay that help forward. We see it all the time. I was thinking of a particular success story. Well, part of my job is to tell those stories that across Middle and West Tennessee and our territory, and a particular lady who got help finding a job. She'd been unemployed more than a year, got help through a Goodwill Career Solutions Center and finding a job ultimately with Goodwill, and who now works with disabled people to help them have employment and the self-respect and dignity that comes with having a job. And we see this time and time again, the people who come to Goodwill for help, who then become disciples of that mission and take it out into the community and do good things with it. So,
talk a little bit more about the Career Solutions Center and what kinds of things people are able to, skills I guess we should say, people are able to achieve once they're there.
Sure. Well, a lot of times folks who have been unemployed for an extended period may be giving up on getting back into the workforce. Maybe they've been out so long, they have gaps in their work history that make their resumes maybe not so appealing to an employer. And so part of what we do is help them. We start with the resume. We also help them with their computer skills. You cannot find a job these days without the ability to go online and do job search. And so that's something we do. Some folks need remedial computer help just to be able to use a computer. So there's that. We then offer also some specific training programs. We have a construction training program that's been very successful in placing folks into jobs. We've seen some big success stories from that, and also housekeeping and other types of jobs where maybe they just need some basic skills to get into the workforce. And so all of these things start just by contacting Goodwill Career Solutions and finding that help. And as Matthew mentioned, there are folks that need some guidance on how to dress for an interview and how to
some of those basics.
Present yourself. Sure.
So you think about Goodwill and you think nonprofit, but you talk about it from a business perspective as well. So draw the line between nonprofit versus how you operate as a business, because you really are a functioning business.
Well, it is, I think, more of a social enterprise, right? So as you talk about what's the social side of this, well, you've got folks who are unemployed. You have folks that have been out of the workforce, or individuals who have barriers to employment, right? And so the Career Solutions side is set up to deliver those kinds of hands-on, in many cases, technical things that individuals need to get into the workforce. So the question is, how do you support that? And for Edgar Helms, initially, he was going door to door and asking people for money. But at some point, that money started running out. And so he was challenged with, well, how do I continue what is clearly working? That I can put people to work, that I can change their lives through the power of work. But if I can't have people giving me money...
Because you need the funds to operate those programs.
How do I do that? The enterprise was, well, if I ask people then for things that they no longer need, want, or use, right? If you give me those things, then I can turn around and I can fix them, or if they don't need to be fixed, I can simply sell them, and through the sale of those donated goods, I can turn around and put that money back into this social part of my work. And so for Goodwill, that is a true social enterprise. I mean, is it a business? Do we have retail stores? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's as important for the donor to know that when they donate, they are putting people to work, as when that person comes in and shops at Goodwill, that purchase is putting people to work.
And sustaining those stores.
So a donor, a shopper are both job creators, right? So when you take that spring cleaning that you've done in your house and you take it, to a Goodwill, you are actually creating jobs. You are putting someone to work through that donation. Our responsibility then is, as a steward of that donation, to manage that, right? So how do we separate what is store quality, what is not? Yeah. How do we price it appropriately? Because it's through the sale of those donated goods that we support this whole career solutions, this whole enterprise. So today, we really don't do any fundraising. Goodwills don't do fundraising. So we depend on the generosity of our donors and the curiosity and the interest and the support of our shoppers coming in and saying, what can I find today for myself or my family, or just something that maybe I need, maybe I don't, but there are great treasures in those stores, and I know that by making that purchase, I am putting someone to work who probably would have trouble finding a job because they're disabled or they have a barrier to employment that most people would pass on them.
I want to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk about some of those unique shopping experiences, because I've heard about some of the things that you all have going on where you draw those shoppers in very special ways. I.e. wedding dresses and
yes,
all that good stuff. But before we take that break, Chris, you mentioned the success stories and how you share these powerful stories throughout the entire state so people can kind of see what Goodwill is really all about. Let's take a look at one of those success stories, and then when we come back, we'll have more from our folks from Goodwill. We'll be right back.
That's Sarah. Hang it up, Sarah.
My name is Tammy Jones. I work at Goodwill Industry, and my title is Assistant Supervisor of the A-Team.
There you go.
It's a group of about 30 people, and all of them have special needs, some greater than others. I just feel like we all one big happy family.
You gonna tell her thank you?
10 years that I have been here, the A-Team has been my favorite part of working at Goodwill. I've never once seen Tammy lose her cool. I have always seen her be loving and caring and supportive to them and try to work through whatever they need. And so I respect her greatly because it's a job a lot of people couldn't do.
Is that better, Wanda? All right.
Letitia, she's my cousin, and when she was born, my aunt said that she was mentally disabled. We was very overprotective of her. We had to take her everywhere we went. When I finally got the opportunity to work with the A-Team, I knew this was where I was supposed to be at.
That will contain some important...
Well, Goodwill has a program that people can get their GED. I go to class on Tuesdays and Thursdays because I always said when my kids, when my last baby graduated, that I was going back to school because that's something that I wanted to do to show my kids. And I just always wanted to get my GED.
We'll let Brandon finish those shorts.
I feel like a teacher all the time. I feel like they my students and I'm the teacher.
She truly enjoys what she does, and I think that that is the key to anyone's success, enjoying what you do, and it's not just a paycheck.
Hey, Quincy.